Have you ever wanted something really bad, and no matter how much you tell yourself that this time you're going to be disciplined, this time is going to be different, you're just never able to bring yourself to do it, especially in the long term? And on the flip side, have you ever found yourself doing some actions and you're not really sure why you're doing them? You feel kind of icky, feel kind of gross, but you still find yourself doing the same thing over and over again? I've been thinking about these two feelings for a while, and I realized these are just the same problem coming from different angles, so I'll just tell you how I think about it. Any action you take can be put along two axes. The first is what I'll call pull, and that is just how automatically you're drawn to do that action. So if you have very high pull towards the action, it'll feel very effortless to do, almost compulsive. And if you have very low pull, then even if you want to do it so bad, you're just not able to bring yourself to do it. The other axis is what I'll call alignment, and that is how much that action is aligned with your greater life goals. So on the low end, it feels completely disconnected and removed from where you want your life direction to go. And on the high end, it feels very meaningful and you feel excited to do the action because it feels like you're making progress in life. When you map these two traits onto different axes, you get these four different quadrants and your whole life falls into these four quadrants. Low pull and low alignment is when the action just feels irrelevant to you. You don't think about it and you don't want to do it. Smoking is an example for me. I've never smoked and I don't want to smoke at all because there's no benefit for me. So it's just kind of irrelevant for me and I don't really think about it. High pull and high alignment things are things that feel very automatic and also serve your life purpose well. For me, an example of this is academics. At some point in middle school, my parents just really got me to understand that academics are super important and something just clicked in me. And ever since then, I have found it like physically uncomfortable not to turn something in by a deadline and or not do my highest quality work. So that's an example of something that's high pull and high alignment for me. Low pull and high alignment actions are actions you care deeply about, but you're never able to make yourself do them consistently, no matter how hard you try. Health and fitness was one of those for me for a very long time. I had all the caring in the world about it, but I could never bring myself to do it consistently. I think this is the most painful quadrant because these are the things you know are really valuable to you, but you're never able to execute on them long term, and you just feel like you're failing yourself. High pull and low alignment actions are ones that you feel compelled to do, but you feel kind of gross and icky while you're doing them because they're not aligned with your goals. Drinking and partying was one of those for me in college. I thought it was what you do to be cool and the way that you have fun, so I gave it a try a few times, but while I was there, I wasn't really enjoying myself. It didn't feel like I was living out my best values, and I realized that it was just not for me, especially since it was not aligned with my other goals like academics or health. The key insight here is that any discomfort that you feel in your life generally means that your actions are lying in those last two quadrants. And it's not character flaws or anything like that, it's just that your actions are out of alignment with your values. So the goal is to get everything into the low pull, low alignment quadrant where you're just not thinking about it because it's irrelevant to you, or into the high alignment and high pull quadrant where your actions are very aligned with your values and you feel fulfilled in life. Once you know which action a quadrant is in, the next step is to decide what to do about it. And in both cases for the off diagonal quadrants, you have two options. You can either change the pull or change the alignment, and both can be valid depending on the situation. When an action is low pull and high alignment for you, you have two options. You can either try to make the action stickier, or you can decide to let it go. So an example of the first case for me is health. It was very important for me. I knew it was good for me in many ways. So that was one where I had to really focus in on trying to make all the habits that come with being a healthy person stickier. One goal where I decided that it actually didn't matter to me as much as I thought it did was getting a prestigious quant job. This was something that a lot of my peers really wanted to do in college, and because everyone else wanted it, I sort of started wanting it as well. But I realized that you have to work insane hours to get the job and then to continue while you're at the job, and that my values didn't really align with just trying to make this firm as much money as possible. So for me, I just decided to let that goal go. For actions that are high pull and low alignment, you hit the same fork in the road. So sometimes I think it'll be better to actually try to increase your alignment and not fight the pull. A good example of this is my friends who are getting a little depressed at their tech jobs. it's not really an option to become unemployed. So their best bet would be to try to find ways to make that time more meaningful so that they can feel more aligned with how they're spending it. There's going to be other times where you just need to kill the pull outright. An example for myself is that when I get bored or stressed, I love to eat some food to make me feel better. And the goal for me is not to make that action more meaningful or make it aligned with my deeper life meaning, but it's just a behavior that I would like to eliminate. Now, let's talk about how you can change your pull or alignment towards a specific action based on some of my experiences and also some science. If you're trying to increase pull, the thing that I found most effective for myself is accountability, and ideally accountability that helps you problem solve. For me, the thing that made the change in my health habits was hiring a personal trainer because I just couldn't stand the idea of having to report to this person that I wasn't able to accomplish what they told me to do. Another thing that's helped me a lot is adding structure and planning to the action. I think a lot of the reason that low pull actions stay low pull is because every time the moment comes around, you have to make the decision to make yourself do it. And a lot of the time, what you have to do is pretty vague. That decision making takes a lot of emotional labor and increases the friction for you to start the action. So planning out exactly what you're going to do beforehand and when you're going to do it can help a lot. My third tip is to bring a friend if you can. This just decreases the activation energy of the action a lot. You don't just have to do a hard thing. At least you can see someone who you like while you're doing it. And there's also a more subtle effect that plays on our human psychology. And that's if you see someone you like doing something they regard as normal, then it starts to feel a lot more natural for you to do as well. Now, trying to decrease the pull of an action is a harder task in my opinion, because almost always these actions are serving a very specific purpose for you. For me, I would eat junk food when I feel stressed because that's the easiest way to increase my comfort in a tough moment. These behaviors persist because they're effective at what they're doing. Because of this, suppression never works. If you try to stop the behavior without addressing what it is actually doing for you, then the need is just going to find another outlet. What does work is substitution. Identify the need that the behavior is fulfilling for you and find another behavior that meets the same need but with less collateral damage. If parties are not fun for you and you need a means for connection, it's not that you should just go and become a hermit. You should go find some friends who do things that you do enjoy. The need is valid, but the vehicle just needs to change. Another thing that genuinely helps is just naming the urge. So when you feel the pull arise, just say, I am going to do X and the reason is Y. There's a part of your brain that is responsible for reacting to different stimuli, and research has found that just naming the action decreases that reactive part of your brain and increases the part of your brain that evaluates whether this activity is actually good for you. This means that even if you're going to do the action anyways, just being self-aware while you're doing it will still go a long ways in helping you break the habit in the long term. There will also be times where you're compelled to do an action, you're forcing yourself to do it because it's good for you, but you just find no meaning in it. So this is a high pull, low alignment situation, and you do actually want to increase the meaning that you find in the action. I don't find toxic positivity very helpful here. I haven't ever found brainwashing myself that I enjoy something to be very helpful. But what does help is finding the parts of the action that are aligned with other goals that you have in life and orienting towards those. I had a part-time job in college that involved me sitting in 5 hours of interviews back to back, and I quickly realized that that was not my favorite thing to do. But then I shifted my focus. Instead of just getting through it, I focused on developing my skills of reading people really fast and selling the company to people who are really skeptical, which were skills that I did actually want to develop. And focusing on those things helped the time feel a little bit more meaningful and interesting as it passed. If you're trying to decrease alignment, it's really about just examining if this value is yours. A lot of what we care about, we just absorb from our environment, our parents, our culture. And if you hold the value up to the light and think about it, you just realize it's not really yours. The quant job thing was an example of this for me. A lot of my peers were gunning for these roles. They're really high pay, high status, super competitive. But when I actually asked myself, do I want to spend my whole life making these firms as much money as possible? I realized the answer is no. I had just absorbed this goal passively because my peers wanted it, and I had never really decided that I wanted it for myself. And once I could see that, the goal just lost its power and I let it go. The next time you feel stuck, I don't think the right question is, why am I like this? Or why can't I just have more discipline? It's more useful to look at which quadrant you're in and take action based on that. If the problem is you care about something really deeply, but you haven't been able to find a way to make it automatic, then you need more structure, more accountability, and less friction. If it's something you're pulled towards but you don't actually respect about yourself, then you need to find the deeper vehicle underneath it and find a way to replace it. If it's something that you're rightfully doing consistently but you don't find any meaning in it, then you just need to connect it to a deeper goal. And if it's something that you want that maybe you don't really want, but the environment is just telling you that you want, then maybe the answer isn't to try harder, but is to just let the goal go. The goal is to ultimately build a life where your actions and directions are moving in the same direction, and the things that you're doing day to day automatically are serving the person who you want to become.